So if you want to follow along with my project, of course my project is basically a button when you press generate, you're going to get a random number on this label. So if you want to follow along, you can just copy this node structure over here, and then you can maybe give your label font size of 50 pixels by going down over here to theme overrides and then font sizes, so that it becomes slightly larger, but that's optional. So once you have that, what you can do is attach a script to your control node, and then you attach the pressed signal from your button to your control node, so that when you press the button, it actually does stuff. So of course you're going to remove some of the default text except for this line over here, and then now we can actually get to adding the randomness functionality. So in order to generate a random number, what you're going to do is going to say var number is equal to random integer, and then that's basically all you need to do to generate a number. And then finally we can just say the label.text is equal to the string of that number. And the reason I'm saying I'm converting the number into a string is because the text property of the label only takes in strings and not integers. So we have to convert everything into a string before we put it into the text, into the label. So once I run this, and then I press generate, you can see that I get a random number, but it's a very large number, and I'll show you in a few how to generate numbers within a certain range. So the randy function, the random integer function, basically generates a random number in between 0 and 2 to the power of 32. So you're going to get any number in between this 0 and this very large number over here. That's why you're seeing numbers with lots of numbers, or with lots of digits inside them. So what if you want to generate numbers within a certain range and not such large numbers? So for that, what you're going to do is, there are two methods for that. So the first one is, after the randy function, what you're going to say is modulus something like 100. So what this one will do is it will produce random numbers in between 0 and one digit less, or one number less than the number at the right. So it's going to produce numbers between 0 and 99. So if I run the scene and then I press generate, we are going to see that we have numbers in between 0 and 99. So that's the first method of generating numbers within a range. And the second method is range. So random integer range. And this one is more useful than the previous one, because I can give it a minimum value also. So I can say that minimum number it can generate is 5, and the maximum is something like 10. And if I run the scene and then I press generate, I can see that I get numbers between 5 and 10. So that's how you generate numbers within a certain range. What about how do you generate random floating point numbers, or numbers with decimal points? So for that, you're just going to say randf, and what this one will do is it will produce numbers between 0 and 1. So if I run the scene and I press generate, you're going to see I get numbers in between 0 and 1. So this decimal points, and then but very rarely it might get to 1.0000 or 0.000000, but it will produce numbers in between 0 and 1. But if you want to get slightly larger decimal numbers, you can maybe multiply this with something like 100, and then if you run the scene again, you're going to see that you get slightly larger numbers. But this one is not very useful. What you can, it's actually useful in some cases, but you can also use the randf range function to get a floating point number from let's say something like 5.5 to like 6.5. So you can give it a custom range, so to something like 6.5, and then once you run this, you're going to see that you're going to get numbers in between 5.5 and 6.5. So that's basically how you generate random numbers in Godot. Goodbye.